So today we're going to work on the Math A quiz review for Chapter 5. So this section was all about angles and lines and their relationships. So we went over some in class, but I want to start from the very beginning just to make sure we're all on the same page. So first of all, on problems like this one that obviously this figure has to deal with, 1, 2, and 3 here. Our first job is to go through and highlight stuff. So remember, we did this thing where we did kind of opposites. So there is some pairings. Do the other ones here. Now the big thing for us that we have to remember is that all of the pink ones are one measurement, all of the blue ones are another. But if I were to take a pink and a blue and add them together, they would be supplements and they would add up to 180. Just important for you to realize. So first of all, if I'm looking at angle 1 and 2, so these two right here. First of all, those two angles happen to be different colors. So we know that they have to equal 180. That means that down here, anything that's a complement, complements are only 90 degrees. These are going to have to be supplements of each other, or supplementary. Now if I look at them, they're right next to each other, which means that they can't be corresponding and they can't be vertical. But they are adjacent. Adjacent means that they share a common side or a common point. And you could see in here, that's actually a common side that they share between them. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of this off of here. Just the arrows so we can deal with the next question. So the next one on this list says, find angle 4 if angle 1 is 70. So angle 1 is right here, and they're saying that this one's 70. If that one's 70, all the rest of the pink ones are also 70. And it happens to be that angle 4 is also pink. And actually, if you haven't noticed this about angle number 4 and angle number 1, they happen to be vertical angles. And we know if they are vertical angles, that they have to be congruent. So that means that you know that angle 1 and angle 4 are going to have to be equal. Which means that if 1 is 70, so is 4. Now, we have another pair of angles here. We have 1 and 5. So if I mark these up here, here's 1 and here's 5. First of all, by looking at them, I can tell they're the same color, which means that I know that there has to be some conversation about angle 5 and angle 1 being equal. And actually, those two angles that are marked up there are both corresponding angles, which means that if they're corresponding angles, we know that they have to be congruent. So if angle 1 is 93, that means that angle 5 also has to be 93. Now, all of these problems on 1 through 3, I'll use the same picture. So a lot of your work is done by actually going through and doing the color coding. So don't forget that step. Now in this one it says angle A and B are alternate exterior angles formed by two parallel lines. Find angle B if angle A equals 82. So first of all, on this problem we have to go back to our definitions in the very first set and kind of look at what alternate exterior angles are. If you look in that very first section, alternate interior angles are congruent. So that means that whatever A is, B is going to have to be the same thing. So that means that if you know A is 82, that means that B also has to be 82 degrees. So that means your answer right here would be A. Now in this one, it says that 9 and 10 are corresponding and complementary. So first of all, if they're corresponding, they have to be equal. If they're complements of each other, they have to add up to 90. So that means that I know that angle 9 and angle 10, when I put them together, are going to have to total 90. And I also know whatever these two are, they have to be the same. The only numbers that would work for that is if I had 45 for both of these, because 45 and 45 would be 90. So that means that it would satisfy this complementary part, that it has to equal 90, and corresponding part that both of these will be equal. So that means C will be your answer. Okay, and number 6. Find the third angle of a right triangle, if the measure of one of the angles is 41 degrees. So first of all, if it's a right triangle, that means that one of the angles has to be 90. And remember, we talked about that in a triangle, our angles have to total 180. So if I can take these two pieces that I already know, whatever's left over when I subtract those is going to be my third angle. So 180 minus 41 minus 90 is going to give me 49. So that means my answer here is going to be 49 degrees. Okay, now look, every one of these so far I've had work, which is the same that it should be for you. Okay, so to find angle X, again, our triangles, degrees have to total 180. And I know that I have 55 and 62 here. So if I take 180 and I subtract 55 and I subtract 62 from that, I'll be left with 63. So my missing angle would have to be 63. Now if you get that and you're not really sure if it's right, remember these three should total 180 together. So take 55 and 62 and 63 and add them together and make sure you get 180. Okay, now this one. Find the measure of an exterior angle of a regular polygon shown here. Now first of all, exterior angles must total 360, no matter what the shape is. On this one, there happens to be 5 sides. So if I take 360 and I divide it by 5, I'm going to get 72 degrees. So that means that no matter all of these angles, when we drew those straight lines, all of those are going to have to be the same, and they're all going to have total 72 degrees. Now this is the one originally on your paper. We said B should have been 180 and C should have been 72. So your answer should be C. Okay, so on this one, when it talks about the measure of an exterior angle is 45 degrees. Remember, we say that no matter how many angles you have, they have to total 360. So if your exterior angle is 45, 45 times some number is going to give us 360 degrees. So if I divide both sides by 45, then I'm going to get x equals 8, which means it has to be 8-sided, which really means that 8 times 45 degrees, you have 8 angles that are 45 degrees, should give you 360. Okay, last one. It says, after finding the third angle of a triangle, if the measure of the right triangle, if the measure of one angle is 25, prove how you know the measure of the third. So first of all, remember that if I know that a triangle has to equal 180. So if it's a right triangle, it has to have one 90-degree angle and another one that's 25. So 90 and 25, if I were to subtract them, would give me 65. Now, I know that if it's a right triangle and one angle is 90, then I know whatever these other two angles are have to add up to 90 as well in order to get 180. So a shortcut might be taking 90 and just subtracting 25 from it to get your 65. Because these two angles plus a 90-degree angle are all going to total 180. So looking up here, the only one that has 65 as the answer would be B.